It's Mr. Mo from Mr. Mo Cyber Talks. Today I'll be taking you through Security Operations Center and its components. This presentation will take you through all the components which are used in a Security Operations Center, and it will show you how all these things are stitched together in order to provide effective services. This will also at the end will help you in order to pick a Security Operations Center service or build one, and you will also able to identify the key performance indicators of a Security Operations Center. With that in mind, let's talk about some definitions. First of all, the SIEM. SIEM stands for Security Information and Event Management. This is a software which is used as the foundation of any SOC. What it does is it will collect logs from different log sources such as network devices, end devices, servers, and it will normalize that data into one standard way. Because if you are familiar with network devices and so on, they can export logs on multiple formats. Most commonly used format is syslog, but there are other devices which follow different formats too. As the SIEM needs one agreed format, it will normalize everything into an agreed format or to a defined format. And the SIEM will also store the logs for whatever the required amount of months, years, and so on. Usually it's defined by the business or the organization. Sometimes the log retention time will be changed based on compliance or regulatory requirements. Then the SOC lead, who is the key person and responsible person for the ongoing operation of the SOC. This position might be filled or will be provided using multiple individuals, because if it is a 24/7 SOC, there might be services will be provided by 2 or 3 personnel. Then comes SOC analysts. They are the key people who are looking at the SOC incidents in a day-to-day manner. Sometimes it's 24/7 based on the rules and regulation established in the SOC. Usually there are 2 tiers of SOC analysts called level 1 and level 2. Level 1 SOC analysts are considered a little bit junior. They would look into day-to-day threats or initial level assessments, and they might even resolve certain ones, but if it is beyond their capability, they would escalate into a different layer such as level 2 or to a dedicated incident response. Now moving to threat hunters, these are the people who are proactively looking for any security vulnerabilities or threats in the environment the SOC is responsible for. For example, they will look at some servers, the firewalls, the switches, routers for any unpatched vulnerabilities or any new vulnerabilities based on the threat intelligence they have. And then comes incident responders. These are dedicated set of people who will be taking on an incident, and they will run with the incident until it's resolved, and they will work with analysts, they will work with the end users, they will work with the upper management or even with the public to keep informed of the current incident and what they are doing, and once it's resolved, we'll give a briefing of how it occurred or the details of the root cause analysis. Then comes threat intelligence. All SOCs need threat intelligence. Threat intelligence comes as feeds, and usually some are coming as open source feeds and some are paid. This threat intelligence will give you what's going on around the world at a given particular time. For example, if there are more ransomware happening from any particular world, they would know straight away. And these feeds would say, okay, there's ransomware popular using zip files, be careful. So the SOC can be ready for anything. Also, by looking at the logs, if you see some activity which are related to threat intelligence, you can be prepared. And finally, the other key component I would like to talk is SOAR, which stands for Security Orchestration and Automation and Response. So this is another piece of software which could be included in a SIEM, or it could be completely another third party. What it does is it will have things called playbooks, which stands for a sequence of a set of tasks. For example, if you see activity from a dangerously categorized IP address, SOAR can be programmed to add a rule on the firewall to block that IP, and at the same time inform the administrators through an email or a integrate ITIL system such as ServiceNow. So that's the part of SOAR. And in my next slide, I will show you how all these components are stitched together. Here we go. So in the middle, you see the SOC. SOC, usually the people in the SOC are in a secured room or highly secured environment because they deal with critical, personal, highly categorized information. And as I said, the base of a SOC is the SIEM platform. This could be running on multiple servers, it could be running as a SaaS, it could be running as in a cloud, but it's literally a software which get all the log sources from external equipment such as network, devices, firewalls, SaaS platforms. And as I said, the SIEM platform will normalize into a format of that SIEM. And then the security analysts look at the dashboards of the SIEM platform, and if they see something unusual, they will either try to resolve it or to escalate into a different level, such as level 2 security analyst. Or if it is a much bigger incident, they will allocate a dedicated incident responder who's up here, who will be able to run with the incident until it's resolved. Now, with the with incidents, which will get allocated incident responders, sometimes incident responders will need to lean on forensic experts to find the root cause. Forensic experts are really smart people who will find out how a breach happened with the available amount of proof they have. It's a really hard job, but it is possible because most of the time the intruders, hackers will leave some information. Right. In all the breaches that have happened in the past, forensics experts have taken some time in order to find out how it occurred. So incident responders will work with forensic experts in order to get the root cause of an incident. And then we have threat hunters in the SOC. They are real people who will use tools built into SIEM or another third-party tool to proactively find out any vulnerabilities in the devices or the platform within the scope of the SOC. If they find ones, they will inform the end users or the customers who are up here through email, phone, or it could be an API to an external ticketing system as ServiceNow. So another team, such as India user support team, can run with it until all the systems are patched. And then you have, as I said before, the security lead who is responsible for the overall operation and the performance of the SOC. And in here, I can also show you some external boxes such as threat intelligence sources. These are, as I said, could be open source or paid. They are external feeds which will inform or educate the SOC about the ongoing vulnerabilities at a particular time or what are the things you would be watched for, what are the security incidents happening in the world. So literally, threat intelligence feeds share other security related information between SOC operators. And then comes the SOAR platform. As I said, certain responses can be automated using the SOAR platform. So when a SIEM detects an unusual activity on a certain IP from a firewall, SOAR can have a playbook which will go and apply a rule, a block rule on the firewall, and send an email to the administrator. So no time has been spent in order to resolve these things, but a security measure has got applied. So this could be done in order to make the SOC more efficient. At the same time, this has to be trialed and practiced properly, because it might generate false positives and might cause disruptions to traffic. If IP is blocked for no reason, then the legitimate traffic would have got dropped. So I'll be talking about false positives in one of the next slides, but SOAR is one of the key things to make it efficient. Rather than waiting for a human to get an action, you can automate certain workflows through the available playbooks. Now, to summarize this slide, for example, right at the bottom, the log sources ingest data into a SIEM platform, and the SIEM platform normalize that data and make it more visualized and user-friendly for the analysts to have a look. And analysts have a look, and they would compare that information with threat intelligence sources they get, and they will decide, okay, whether this is something needs more attention, whether they will escalate to another level, or if they see an incident, they will allocate it to an incident responder. And then the incident responders might get to need help from forensics experts and resolve the incident. At the same time, SOC has integrations with the end users or other support teams or external customers. And this could be in the form of an email, API, or a phone call, or through API they can link to external ticketing system. And that's how the SOC operation works. Now the key here is, yes, you need enough logs in order for a SIEM to be effective, so the analysts will get the maximum benefit. But too much data would make it an inefficient SOC. Therefore, you need to get the right balance. Usually, in order to get the right balance, it will take at least a couple of months. More mature the SOC, more efficient it is. Also, another key thing is the SIEM platform also has, as it is storing more logs, it can only contain a certain amount of logs because of the hardware limitations and so on. Therefore, you need to have an idea of how long you are going to keep the logs for. Why do we need to keep logs for some time? Is maybe an incident happens after 300 days, and the forensic experts will require to go back and see what has happened at a later stage. Therefore, the log retention period is a key. And also there's regulatory compliances in order to keep logs too. So when you are selecting a SIEM platform, you need to consider that as well. So these are some examples of log sources. As I said, there's network devices, intrusion prevention systems, authentication sources like Active Directory Okta, endpoint detection such as Cisco AMP, Defender, Carbon Black, could be any antivirus, which is email security, and then business applications such as SAP, Xero, all these stuff. Most of the SaaS applications integrate with SIEMs using APIs, but network devices or physical devices usually use syslog. And these syslogs will have different formats. That's why the SIEM will require to normalize data into its own format. So now talking about KPIs of a SOC, mean time to detect. Mean time to detect means detecting an incident in less time. So if a SOC can detect something in an environment in less time, that's great. That means it's a good indicator and it's an efficient SOC. Mean time to respond is, again, if once it is detected, how long does it take your SOC analyst or the SOC staff to respond? This could be like if it detects unusual activity from an IP, how long does it go to block it? Less of the time, it's great. Now, false positives. As I said, as soon as you start a SOC, there could be a bit of false positives. I haven't seen anything which doesn't have any false positives. Even a matured SOC will have less amount of false positive rates, because you have fine-tuned all the rules, but sometimes there could be a bit of false in there. It is better to have a false positive rather than not having a false. So we would say the opposite of false positives is a false negative. So as I said, more mature, more fine-tuning has happened on the SOC, false positives would be less. So that would contribute to a more efficient SOC. The incident response rate is a key. This will also shows the strength of your SOC apart from just the efficiency. So for example, we don't expect multiple incidents happen, but when they do happen, do you have the capability? That's one measure. For example, with these AI-based attacks, there could be multiple incidents happening at the same time, and is your SOC capable of handling that? Can you handle multiple incidents at a time? That is one of the key components. So in order to have an efficient SOC, as I mentioned before, and I would mention it again, you need to ingest enough data. I usually suggest to ingest data from multiple tiers, such as your endpoints like Microsoft Defenders, Carbon Blacks, CrowdStrikes, to network devices, network firewalls, email threat protection, edge firewalls, or web application firewalls. Once you have all this data from multiple tiers, it's easy for a SIEM to identify unusual activity. Even if an unlikely event and in breach occurs, it's quite easy to follow the sequence of how it initially entered and what caused it enter, like to find the root cause. It will even help the forensics experts. Forensic experts need this information in order to solve out. They will not have any magic or magical device in order to look into your environment. So we need to get the right balance of logs into a SOC in order to make it more efficient. Also, fine-tuning of the security rules in the SIEM is also a key. Nowadays, there are SIEM tools which has built-in rules, also capable AI built in order to make it efficient. I will have a separate video on a live demo of a life of a security analyst using one of these tools quite soon. And finally, benefits of a SOC. So SOC provide continuous monitoring 24/7, whether it's manned or unmanned, which is a good thing to have, especially when all your staff are away in the night or during holiday periods. It will also provide regulatory compliance, such as APRA CPS 234 requires now all its compliant organizations to have a security operations center. So in order to have that tick, yes, the SOC will help you do that. A SOC will also provide threat intelligence, therefore you can be prepared or patch your environment in order to avoid those threats. Now you have one single place to show your logs, and it will also be the single pane of glass across multiple devices in your environment. All these things will improve the security posture because you will proactively detect threats, vulnerabilities, and you can be ready by patching, or you can be ready with whatever the recommendations available. This will eventually make an improved security posture. Finally, now you have a dedicated team in order to fight an incident. So, which will also make you professional during an incident response process. And that concludes my video on a security operations center and the components which it has. So what's next? Next, I will have a real-time SOC demo. This will also show how an analyst works in their day-to-day job. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to my channel to watch more videos like this, please subscribe, and thank you very much.